Hello and welcome to SEO Rankings Do Follow podcast. Here we hold regular talks with SEO and digital marketing experts to discuss hot SEO topics and share actionable insights with the SEO community. So subscribe to stay on top of everything going on in SEO. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to navigate SEO in the coming year. And to answer this question and provide our listeners with actionable insights and predictions for the next year, I will be picking the wonderful brain of our guest expert. I would like to welcome Aleyda Solis, an international SEO consultant, author, speaker, entrepreneur, founder of Orainti, and a boutique SEO consultancy working with some of the top web properties and brands. She's also the co-founder of remoters.net. Welcome, Aleyda. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to be here with us. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. It's pretty exciting to be able to share with you today.
Looking forward to it. So let's start off with talking a bit more about yourself. How did you get into SEO? What drew you to this field?
Yeah, I was a web designer / front-end web developer before. And there was always these questions about how do I attract traffic to the websites that I am creating, right? And I started to look more into online marketing. I took a job at an online marketing agency. I was lucky enough that they were already doing SEO. I was handling and maintaining a network of websites, doing everything, right? Like the content, design, monetization through affiliates, ads, and eventually I ran into SEO because this was, of course, one of the most cost-effective challenge. I was lucky to be taught by the SEOs who were already doing it within the agency. And I realized that I loved that because it was a mix of everything what I liked. There was the technical, the content, the promotional side of things. And at some point, one of the SEOs from the department left the agency and they gave me the opportunity to focus on it and start working and specializing on SEO. So it was pretty, let's say, natural and serendipity type of experience for me to find SEO.
Great. And so over your journey into SEO, how has SEO evolved? How have your practices evolved? How was SEO when you first started working in it? And how has it transitioned into like this year?
Yes, a lot because I started doing SEO in 2007. So yeah, too many changes to mention as a simple answer, but let's say just a lot. Google was much not so sophisticated back in the day, right? So yes, it was, let's say, also easy to get away without necessarily having necessarily such a high quality of search experience that you provided within your website. So I'm very, very happy to see how it has evolved through the years because it only aligns with what users will tend to find as the best experience for them in their search journey, right? So at the end of the day, is very logical and unexpected. And funnily, I have been always doing SEOs for clients and working in-house too, and also from time to time with my own projects, but trying to follow as much as possible always the best practices because eventually Google has the capacity and it has shown will catch up and will try to align themselves with what the users find to be the best for them too. So I wasn't one of those that leveraged or made the most out of the weakness that Google had back then. But it's very funny because it definitely was easier than what it is nowadays to try to find your way to manipulate yourself through the rankings. So there's definitely a very obvious difference from back then and today. I'm very happy how Google has evolved pretty much because of that too.
Let's talk about more specifically about today's SEO. How have the technological development impacted SEO this year? And what is the trend that is dominating? So before we look into the year ahead, I wanted to focus on this specific year. How can you summarize this year in SEO if you take into account with all the technological developments and AI, machine learning and stuff like that?
Yeah, I will highlight two layers of it. We have the content quality efforts that Google have been doing since many years ago. And this year, they continue to do it so, but let's say with more granular and also frequent iterations of their updates. So we have the helpful content update, we have beyond the core updates, also the spam updates. So in general, like the focus of Google has been, and has always been, and it's even more obvious now that they're disclosing whenever they in a much more clear way and all of the level of granularity of the different ranking systems and updates. They want to be able to identify the reliable content that show the qualities that they are looking for to surface and in top results for users, which at the end of the day is content that shows first-hand experience, that is written by real humans, that is content that shows expertise, that shows authoritativeness, that is trustworthy too. So at the end of the day, we have all of this, let's say, qualitative type of characteristics that Google is looking to, let's say, highlight more, endorse more, especially in sensible fields. But I believe that this is something that we should try to take into account and prioritize in every field, independently if we are not in your money of your life at the end of the day. But it's true that this is something that is not new, definitely. But what I could see this year is that they were shifting and giving more prominence to the angle that they were using to these updates and features that they launched to target more towards real users, and which is, I would say, natural given the popularization of AI-based content. So Google has mentioned that they are okay with AI-based content, and we should look into, let's say, leverage AI and LLMs in order to maximize our productivity, which makes sense. But again, it makes sense, but it shouldn't be black and white and with a grain of salt, and ensuring quality, and also in an age in which every content can be pretty much automated. What is your unique selling proposition at the end of the day? What you provide with it that makes you unique and different? What is your editorial take? How does it represent your brand? How it is better than all of the rest of the content that is also automated out there, right? So, and this is the type of angle that I believe Google is taking more and more. It's not necessarily penalizing automated content, but yes, it's taking it more into account and allowing them to identify that content that can provide this best-in-class experience by providing something extra that cannot be automated, right? And I believe that this is already in progress with not only with this additional updates, etc., all of these updates that Google has been doing this year, but also with these additional filters and functionalities that they have been releasing or testing and announcing, like, for example, perspectives that is looking to highlight and give more visibility to UGC. And we see videos from TikTok, from YouTube, of course, more content from Reddit, etc., from real users. We also are able to see all of these features that Google is releasing, like following topics. I mean, following topics, this gives me a little bit of a feeling of a community, right? Of a social network-like type of experience. The nodes that they are testing, which by all means, let's not be naive. I'm sure that they expect people to play with it and try to spam it, etc. But I believe that they are testing more of these features that, again, allows them to gather information from users and make their experience more human-oriented and human-powered too. So this is the layer that I am seeing more beyond the typical, let's make our content qualitative better to fulfill better the user search experience, is how to make it more human and the results to be more human, also to be able to compete with, for example, all the platforms that are used more and more to search, to look for information that is more conversational and that is more human oriented, and like TikTok too, for example, beyond the LLMs, of course. So yeah, there's that. Then on the other hand, I have seen many other updates and new releases and experience focusing more and more on the transactional and commercial layer of Google. Google wants to become also, for those more commercial and transactional queries that have to do with retailing, a competitor with Amazon. And they are effectively releasing, and we can see an experience of them with the product carousels, with the product knowledge panel, which you can directly see there, the pros and cons, the ratings, and go direct to the PDPs of the vendors without necessarily going through articles or reviews or PLPs of e-commerce, right? So there's also that. Google becoming a little bit of more like a destination for retailing, for e-commerce, trying to compete, let's say, with all of the functionalities and use that Amazon has been given us historically, right? And it's only obvious to me that they are focusing more and more efforts into that and trying to integrate it even further with the SGE, right? Like, had a chance to test a lot with it. And I have also published a couple of articles about it, scenarios in which I can see that SGE actually makes sense and provides a better experience and an experience that allows users to accelerate the staging where they are in the search buying process is that one when they are searching for products at the commercial level. So for example, when they want to buy top sneakers to wear in winter, for example, waterproof sneakers for the winter, and rather than highlighting or seeing the PLPs that are ranked at the top positions within the SGE snapshot, users will literally see and have this recreated PLP-like experience where user will add a couple of lines as an intro and then highlight all of these products that are clickable. And when you click, they will show the product knowledge panel information, and you can go and buy them from 3 or 4 retailers directly. So yes, they are establishing themselves even further if at some point SGE is released as they are testing it for this type of queries, right? As a layer for e-commerce too.
I wanted to jump in at this point and talk about how do you think the businesses should change their approach to providing information to search engines in light of the potential shift of the search habits. So we have the typical search through Google, and then we have the SGE, which sort of provides you with a pre-made answer. How can they improve their chances of appearing as a result for searches coming up in SGE?
Depending on their sector, on the type of business model that you have, and unique selling proposition in the market, etc., and where are you investing at the moment, right? And what type of content, right? We have the duplicative SGE snapshot, which my feeling is that will have a low current traffic risk for anybody leveraging it. So, for example, these are the snapshots where Google pretty much recreates feature snippets or search snippets or search features that they already provide. So, for example, for localized queries, hairdressers near me, they will tend to provide like a local pack-like experience there that is already included below already. And I believe that shouldn't necessarily even be released. And if at some point it's released, Google should remove one or the other because it's a duplicative experience. Then we have the summarizing and complementary SGE snapshot, where it has a low, medium current traffic risk. And these are more the type of snapshots that will complement or summarize at a very high level what the user needs, but won't necessarily fulfill the user need completely. So the user will still need to click on your result that is ranked in top position. So for example, SEO recommendations prioritization template. The users literally that search for this, 99% of them want a template. Google will generate a snapshot pretty much describing how to create a template and linking to the carousels and in the overlay links, which you need to click to make them shown, right? Like, so they are not shown by default, but they are there, right? So literally the articles that are featuring the carousel too within the SGE snapshot from where the answer is taken from are those that are ranking top positions anyway. So if at some point even users click on them, these are users that will tend to also go to your page because you are already ranking top positions. But I don't expect that a lot of users end up doing this anyway, because the search need is not fulfilled with the SG snapshots. It's just a complementary high-level summary of what they can obtain or what they are looking for. And for the actual need to be fulfilled, they need to click still to in your pages. The same, for example, when you were looking for best Black Friday deals in 2023, you will see like a highlight bullet points of those that Google found to be top deals, which is nice, which is great, but they were not even clickable directly, right? And these were deals that were already featured in the top rank articles that were ranking first, right? So I expect that the users will still go to those articles to have their search need fulfilled. So again, type of risk is not very high in that scenario. In the third scenario, which is what I call the accelerators, SGE snapshots, I expect that, yes, there's a much higher medium, high traffic risk of the current traffic. And these are the scenarios that, like the one that I mentioned before, when you search for women black jeans, we had a lot of category pages from Amazon, from Nordstrom, from Walmart, let's say, category pages ranking top positions there with listings. Google will tend to now recreate directly in the SGE now their own listings featuring top products from a variety of vendors, not only from the top ones ranking top organic search positions. And when you click the products, you will get the product knowledge panel and you will be able to go to many other vendors directly. They're not necessarily the ones ranking top positions. So this opens up to a huge opportunity to those merchants and e-commerce websites, online store who haven't been authoritative enough or strong enough to rank for these broader commercial queries at the mid of the funnel, or even at the bottom of the funnel that can generate a lot of conversions, right? So my recommendation here is to invest a lot on your PDPs, because that is your opportunity. Your product pages, that is your opportunity to get in there. Structured data, workflow status, and configuration based on the inventory status, merchant feeds, etc., etc. I will say to make the most out of it. And then on the other hand, it's just about being smart and identifying opportunities based on where you are attracting at the moment a lot of your traffic. So for that, what I would highly, highly recommend is that if you're the SEO or you're working with a company and you are afraid of the potential impact, is to go on and search for the queries that will bring most of value through the different stages of the customer journey, and take a look at what is Google highlighting in those SGE. And if your content will be highlighted there because already ranking top positions, or if the behavior will change completely and will take those users away from your pages, how can you make sure to two things, to try to create content that will still be referred within the SGE if you are able and your business model allows you to do so, and if not, how you can complement that by targeting all the queries that can keep you up and still give you visibility that you will have gotten in these other ways otherwise. But yeah, it's about being strategical and analyzing and assessing based on your own scenario and situation.
So you don't think any specific type of content will be prevailing next year? People will still have to have this approach to cover all types of content more and more.
It depends on the website at the end of the day. It depends on the context. It depends on the audience. It depends on where the efforts are going at the moment. And that is why I ask users, please, or users or SEOs or the people who are watching this, go and analyze yourself. It will be very easy for me to give a blanket statement that will be in 99% wrong in most of the scenarios, right? And I don't do that. I prefer to avoid that. And this is the beauty about being SEO, because if it was just about best practices, very high level guidelines and blanket statement and rule of thumbs, then I think that at this point we'll be out of jobs, right? Because any machine will be able to do it. So yes, it's about taking into consideration your particular context, where you are putting the money, where you are focusing, seeing what is the level of visibility that your content will still get if at some point, different scenarios, right? Different hypotheses. If Google continues to show their search results as they are at the moment without necessarily overlaying the SGE, or if Google ends up adding the SGE to all of this, will it make sense or not? Also, of course, it's always about testing and identifying new opportunities, right? If you are already producing a lot of video format content for YouTube or for TikTok, how you can make the most out of it. And you're seeing that you're getting a little bit of more and more visibility in those platforms. And Google is giving more prominence to them through the perspective filters, why you don't double down, or why you don't come up with a pilot project, trying to invest a little bit more on those, and tracking the type of visibility that you get through the video carousels and things like that, right? So I will always recommend to think strategically, depending on your own context, depending on your resources, and identifying the patterns of what Google is showing or not, and based on that, making a decision that actually makes sense for you.
I want to talk a bit more about the user experience part of SEO. Is there something, a specific aspect that you think will obviously it depends answer applies to a lot of the stuff that we talk about, but maybe in your experience you have something, you saw, notice something, a shift in 2023, and that it may be impacting more going forward with regard to providing users with the right flow. So about the experience, is there any development, something that businesses can focus on if they haven't, if they missed it throughout this year, something with regard to providing users with a better experience?
Better experience means like a more human experience than real author, human author, written content with real expertise. Something that I expect more websites do, that a lot of websites have already started to do, is to show and showcase and feature in a very prominent, clear way if they have expertise, and if this has been written by a real human, not only for your money of your life. I will say that I will highly, highly recommend to highlight this whenever it makes sense. And again, don't try to think in a very sophisticated way, like if you were an algorithm, try to think as a final user, because what the algorithm wants to do at the end of the day is to provide the user the best experience, right? So just think, is this really reasonable to showcase to the user? Will the user trust me better? If you run a lot of surveys with your audience already because of UX purposes, I will go and incorporate a few SEO questions there to make sure that you improve the format, the length, the comprehensiveness, the focus, the angle, the authorship of your content accordingly to give a better experience and to showcase more this type of signals that of real human experience, let's say. And then on the other hand, if you don't have this already going on, I will highly, highly, highly recommend to start developing surveys to your users to identify like what will make you trust me more, what I am lacking here, what is making you to not buy from me at this point, and incorporate this. It's about being ahead of what is already required as a or taken into consideration as a ranking factor, because if we are only chasing ranking factors at the end of the day, real leaders and those websites that want just to provide best-in-class experience will be always ahead of us. So I will always recommend to find and identify with your users the different characteristics and patterns and formats for you to improve your website experience as a whole, from a technical, content, UI, etc. configuration, and be there, right? Some great audience for me that comes to my mind that I have seen people already doing is like add an authorship box to your articles if you're not already doing it, right? With the real writer showcasing and highlighting the person expertise, linking to an authorship page that is indexable, that specify what structured data, all of the information and where they can be found on the web. So you're pretty much on one hand highlighting to your user why they should trust you and buy from you and trust your review rather than other two parties. And on the other hand, you're ensuring, but with your configuration, that Google is finding this too. And if at some point they want to take this into account for rankings, then great. But even if it is not like this, you're definitely providing the right signals for your users already there to trust you more and convert better.
We employed that on our blog just about a year ago as soon as we heard about it, and it's been producing pretty good results for us. Obviously, it changes every day. We have to rework our approach every day. I want to talk about the different pitfalls, or maybe you see something in your work that really frustrates you, or you just feel sorry for somebody and you have a comment about some silly mistakes that people make in SEO this year, or maybe something they sort of make a bet point in the future that they will just sort of come down altogether. I don't want to touch on all black hat techniques, but maybe something that you see people making really big SEO mistakes that are hurting them and hurting the field in general.
Yeah, it's just like the get quick rich type of scheme that somehow I think that, and I was talking about that like with some SEOs at a recent event, I believe. It's funny because it feels like 2007 all back again, right? When I was starting in SEO, you had all of this niche affiliate, aggressive type of websites that indeed with content that was not necessarily useful, try to make the most out of it because of the vulnerabilities and the lack of sophistication that Google had at that point, right? Like all this ended up like decreasing from time when Google started becoming more sophisticated and quality oriented. But I guess that it was because with the popularization of AI content, right? This had yet another life, let's say, since a year and a half ago or so. You can see more the tweets and shares about niche type of websites, which by all means, I have friends in the industry that are amazing affiliate SEOs who do an amazing work with really high quality content and reviews and information that are able to monetize it, etc., etc. Even my websites and projects, we use affiliates, but not with the get rich quick type of mindset, right? And this is what doesn't rub me in the right way when I see this being sold like this in Twitter SEO, let's say, because it's stuff that should take time. You shouldn't try to manipulate. And if you do manipulate and try to get away with rubbish content or content that eventually it's really not helpful and meaningful, Google will eventually find a way to not give visibility to it because it won't be good for users, right? So it's naive to think that even if you were able to get away with it at this point because of all the automation of content going on and like the capacity to generate like content that is of a higher level, that everything can be automated, autopilot. You run a website and it will make you a millionaire without touching anything, right? So I'm afraid that I'm seeing that the second wave or third, whatever wave of this going on. So just a reminder and a warning, right? Like whatever is too good to be true, it tends to be too good to be true. And secondly, that even if you are able to get away with something right now, if it is not really meaningful and good for the user, will tend to shift and try to catch up with that, because at the end of the day, their whole business rely on that, on good user search experience and fulfill your users' need, right?
Yeah, so if you're in it for the long haul, you just can't simply afford to and try anything that will sort of fast track your way through Google to the top ranking. So it's just all about quality, taking your time. AI can help with that, but your expertise is what it's all about. And I have a question about specifically your habits. So how can we be more like you? Is there any specific tools that you use on a daily basis that help you sort of stay in the SEO loop, or something that you use that helps you find specific information? Just what advice can you give to our listeners in terms of where you get data from? How do you stay relevant in SEO?
SEO FOMO. Subscribe to my newsletter. 30,000 subscribers. The best way to stay in the loop and to avoid the FOMO and to be notified of any new update, any new release, the best resources in the markets, guides, ideas, etc., people to follow. I will highly recommend to subscribe to SEO FOMO. Coincidentally, it's my newsletter, but I have to say that it's that newsletter that I write anyway that I wish to have had to stay updated. SEO FOMO, literally, it has different sections. It has the top news from search engines directly, top resources from other SEOs, guides. This can be videos, webinars, as long as they are in an open format and can be consumed for free. If they are meaningful, if they are useful, if they are actionable and relevant, I will feature them there. There's also top premium tools sections in there. There is also top events. I list their events that are upcoming, free, are paid, and in person and online. So if you want to also stay updated by like watching virtual events or even going to meetups, etc., this is a place. I have a section for jobs, top SEO jobs, also worldwide. So there's like a list of the top 10 jobs that I find every week in there. And there's also a section about learning SEO. So if you're still learning SEO, I have a website, also completely free, learningseo.io, that aggregates reliable resources and provides a roadmap to learn SEO, like every field, every area, in a way that is logical to follow and easy to follow. And now I am doing weekly videos with other SEO specialists, reliable experts from the fields, in which we do Q&As with the community. I have chosen 10 participants who are able to ask their questions to this specialist. And we go through the Q&A and then we embed the videos on the website. So you don't only get resources, third-party resources that are reliable, but you get also tips that I have aggregated there from people who suggest their top tips for every area. You have FAQs, you have now videos. So if you're still trying or you say, oh, look, I want to expand my knowledge about JavaScript SEO, or I want to expand my knowledge in Core Vitals or internal linking, etc., or Shopify SEO, you have that in there with their own specific areas too. So that is another way to keep updated, I guess.
Thank you. And I think this is a good place to sort of wrap up and talk about maybe a couple of things that you would want our listeners to walk away with into the next year. What are your top 3 things, top advice for next year in terms of SEO and SEO strategy? What do businesses need to focus on to have a leg up in front of their competitors for next year?
I will say to assess the level of click-through rate that you're getting from the current targeted queries, to identify the traffic erosion for those queries, because I believe that the issue with many businesses is that have been, especially authoritative ones who have had already established and gotten good visibility for some of the queries in their market, in their sectors, is that overlook, and they think that they will keep ranking well for this main queries because they have their top feature pages or top category pages there. And I believe that now more than ever, that is not necessarily true. Not only because of SGE, as I mentioned before, but also because of all of these new search features that Google has been releasing and will continue to release. And I have, for example, a client in the fitness sector where he was ranking for many of the top workout terms in top positions, but then all of a sudden Google decided to feature a video carousel at the top or an image pack at the top. And all of a sudden they kept ranking first, but the click-through rate sink, right? So my point here is to identify the risks, the threats, the opportunities that your different queries might have. If you're already seeing patterns of Google highlighting more informational content rather than purely commercial content for some of your queries, well, maybe you need to take that into account. I see that many e-commerce websites and online stores are not necessarily so keen on creating informational content because they think that they take them from content that will end up converting directly on a sale, which is what they ultimately care about. But these are players that need to understand more and more that type of queries that used to surface a lot of very obvious commercial transactional content is not doing it anymore, but they are highlighting more review pages and guides and influencer showcasing the product on a video, right, in different formats. So they need to identify the patterns, go and take a look at which are the type and the format and sort features that are being highlighted more and more for this type of queries, and see if you're missing the track, if you're losing the opportunity there, if there's something that you need to change. So I will highly, highly, highly advise on that. Again, even if it doesn't end up getting released, just that, you can expect to lose or to miss very likely traffic because of this. So identify opportunities for the current queries and then diversify the type of queries that you can actually make sense for you to target. That is a must. Then, of course, think more about the users. At the end of the day, EEAT is about that, right? And how you can not only improve your content, but improve the content to make it better than the one of your competitors. And I think that this is where a lot of websites miss the loop, let's say. And it's funny to see and to hear all of these stories of websites that get hit by a core update. It's like, oh, my content is good. It's like, but you go and take a look at the content and it's certainly not rubbish. I mean, there is a reason why it was being ranked anyway. So it's certainly not rubbish, but now the content that ranks them and is ranking to position is certainly better, certainly more comprehensive. It's certainly giving more signals of trust, of expertise in different ways. So we should, and of course, sometimes you need to read through lines. It's not so obvious, right? It's also sometimes not qualitative stuff, helpful content update, I believe. Well, some of these websites were actually just not necessarily featuring, let's say, information in a easy to find way. Many of them were featuring too many adverts, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, it's about providing the best top-in-class experience, right? So in many ways, it's not, oh, this is rubbish, this is amazing, and this is a gap that we need to close. Many, many times are little signals, little configuration, little elements that at the end of the day make the users to have a worse experience than with the other one. So go and take a look and improve to make your content best in class. Don't wait for Google to disclose that something is a clear ranking factor to take action on that, because otherwise you will already be behind if you wait for that. That's for sure. And then potentially, as the third thing, I would say is just start potentially playing out and testing out with all the platforms, with LLMs and with also more social platforms. We're seeing that, and more like even third-party platforms, more commercially driven platform in case you're a retailer, right? Like or a brand with products that have online stores, with marketplaces, right? If you try to identify and to come up with a test with this third-party platform or additional platforms that you're seeing is getting more and more visibility in your field, not only in search, but in general as a platform that your users are mentioning that they are consuming at or getting information from, it might not hurt for you to go and develop a pilot project for the new year and test it out and see if it performs well for you or not. It might not necessarily be good for you or relevant, but this is how, again, you identify new opportunities and fields, right? I believe that we have forgotten that this is how SEO was when 15 years ago, right? Like we didn't have Google people confirming updates all the time or giving best practices or saying how it was done. It was a lot of testing, of like bringing up hypotheses or identifying patterns, a lot of proactiveness and curiosity, right? So I will highly, highly advise to websites to bring again those principles in today's day-to-day and their SEO work.
Yeah, thank you, Aleyda. Obviously, it's a difficult topic to predict what's going to happen next year, but hopefully all the stuff that you shared will give our listeners at least a rough understanding to get prepared, to sort of obviously focus on quality. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what actually is brought by next year, what developments we'll see, how people will take advantage of them. I want to thank you, Aleyda, for taking the time to be here with us. And I want to sign off by saying that today, Aleyda Solis shared with us her insights and predictions that will help us navigate the SEO challenges of the coming year. Thank you, everybody, for your time. And be sure to subscribe and join the next episode of the Do Follow podcast. Thank you, Aleyda, once again.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a great time.